background was done in fawn, and I used Deco Americana paints primarily. Now that's not to say that I don't use other brands. If I can't find the exact color, I will color match with another brand, but my go-to are Deco Art Americana. I like those the best, and that's just personal preference. But I'm going to use some fawn and some white for the background. And I'm going to use, you can probably use a 1-inch brush for this, but I'm going to dip into my fawn color, and I'm just going to kind of slap that on there. It doesn't have to be anything too special. You just want to get that fawn color on there. And the canvas that I'm using is a 11 by 14, and this one, again, I know dollar stores and everything are closed right now, but this is a dollar store canvas. So I think this canvas cost me $2, so it's not expensive. And even if you got a pack of canvases this size at Michael's, like I said, I think you'll get 7 or 8 in a package for $16.99. It's not expensive at all. Right now I've been getting most of my things at Michael's curbside, just because, like I said, we're in lockdown here, and you do what you got to do. And I have other suppliers too. If you need to do mail order, I have Curry's is another one that you can get art supplies from. There's Wallach's. There's many different, and I have some American ones for my American ladies too, if they're having trouble finding supplies. I'm tending to stay away from Amazon right now just because, and no disrespect to Amazon, but I just find that paint is a little tough to find sometimes, and I just find that people are putting their prices for paint and things on Amazon are crazy, crazy expensive. So I don't typically put those links up for people because they can be a little wild with their pricing. So I'm just doing my sides here. Getting lots of paint on myself. Just want to get this base coat down, and we'll get that watering can on there. You don't have to paint your sides first. I'm just trying to complete it. You can do that after it's finished. Okay, so now that we have the first coat on here, it's going to dry and it's going to be a little bit blotchy. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to really like kind of soak this. And I'm just going to kind of slip slap this on here again. And I'm going to start incorporating some white in here. And this is kind of, you don't want it to be too blended because you kind of want to see the way I did this one. You can kind of see the streaks of white in it. So I'm just going to take that and I'm going to just kind of go in like X's with my, I call it slip slapping, but you don't want to blend it too much because it'll fade right, that white will fade right in there. You kind of want to be able to see the transition of colors. And I mean, you can do this with any color background. If you want to change your background color, you can do that too. You can change the color of your watering can. You can do this painting in any paint colors you want. If you have certain colors at home and you don't have all of these colors, it's not mandatory. You can do your watering can blue. It doesn't matter. You can do your daisies in any color you like. If you want all white daisies, you can do that. So I think that's pretty good. I'm just gonna leave that like that. And put some more down here. But you can kind of get carried away with that a little bit. But I think that's pretty good. And I'm just gonna turn my volume off and I'm gonna dry this completely so I can put my pattern on. So I'm just gonna turn my volume off for a second. Okay, I have my volume back on. I had to pop over and grab another color I forgot to get. So, oh, lost that one. Okay, so now I'm gonna transfer. You noticed I put my hand in wet paint there when I was drying it. It's kind of thick, so you have to let it really dry well. So I'm going to grab my pattern, and you can see when I was talking about mine is like crazy busy up here. It is, because this was my original drawing, and I had afterthoughts as I was doing it. So yours will be much more uniform and much prettier and easier to follow, I guarantee it. So we're just gonna center this on here, and I'm gonna grab my carbon paper, and I'm gonna put it underneath the watering can. And grab my stylus, wherever I did leave that. There it is. And I'm just going to go around the outside edge of that. Sorry, you guys, if you can hear the dog. He's kind of nosy. He hears me talking and he thinks that there's people in here. So he comes in to see who I'm talking to. So maybe he thinks I'm crazy talking to myself. I don't know. It happens. I do talk to myself sometimes. All right, so I'm just ignoring those flowers and I'm just transferring on the watering can first. So I'm going to pretend those flowers aren't there, and I'm just putting my lines straight through them. So I just want to be able to base coat the whole thing first before we put any details on here. And the handle. Now I am going to put these long greenery pieces in here as well. Oops, I didn't have my thing under there. So I'm just going to move this up, silly me. And try that again. So we're going to do these long sprigs here and these green leaves. We'll transfer those on. And it's a good thing I can decipher what the heck this line drawing is. Like I said, I know yours will be prettier, I promise. At least I hope I can decipher this. Holy smokes. I would feel terrible if I thought that you should follow what I have going on this paper right now. All right, so I think that's good. Let's make this one a bit bigger. So I think I have everything on there that I want to start with. So that looks good to me. We'll just set that aside for now. And I'm going to block in the watering can with some sea glass color. It's just a light minty kind of green color. And again, if you don't have this color or you can't get your hands on this color, just paint your watering can in a different color. There's no hard and fast rules as to color choices. Sorry, I'm just spinning this around so I can reach this a little bit better. Now, as for brushes for this project, I usually just have a variety of different sizes, flat brushes. I like angled brushes. They are my favorite. I'm using one right now. I just find you can get in the corners a little bit better with an angled brush. I'm also going to be using a rounded brush, which is a filbert brush for the daisies. But again, if you feel comfortable using a different kind of brush than I'm using, again, there is zero rules when it comes to what brushes you use. I will show you which ones I am using, but I find that brushes are all comfort. What you're comfortable with, what you normally paint with, or if you're a new painter and you're not sure what you paint with, then by all means you can follow what I'm using. But I think over time everybody develops their own style and their own comfort with the brushes that they use. So again, there's no hard and fast rules when it comes to brush choices. And I think that anyone that paints would agree with me on that. Everybody has their own favorite brushes when they paint. I'm just getting this spout in here, and then I'm going to work on the handle. We'll get this base coated, and then we'll start basing in the leaves up here. I'll just get a smaller brush here to get the handle. I'll just use my little angled one here. So I'm using another angled brush. It's just a smaller size. This one, the first one I used was a 1/2 inch angle, and this one is a 1/4 inch. Trying not to stick my hand in wet paint, which I do quite often. And probably will happen tonight as well. Just what I do. Okay, so we'll let that dry, and then we'll move on up to these greens here. Let's clean my brushes out a little bit. Now I based the leaves with Hauser medium green first. I'll get the rest of that handle on the second go around there. Most of your base coating is always going to need a couple of coats. So when it dries, you're going to start being able to see through it to the background, and you're going to have to put another coat on there. All right, so I'm using a number 5 round brush to do these, and the reason being, you can usually do it in one stroke. So I just start at the top of the round, and then I just pull up on my brush to get that point at the bottom. So you can just pull them down like that, and that'll fill that in. Now I'm going to move this in so you can see a little better what I'm doing. There, we'll move it in so you can see that a little better. So I'm just pushing down at the very top, and then I'm just releasing pressure on the brush as I come down to the stem, like that. And again, these will probably need 2 coats, so we're going to put that first coat on here. Now you're not going to see a lot of these leaves because you're going to paint your daisies over them. So you don't have to be too meticulous with these. They're just kind of as background greenery, so they're going to peek through your daisies, but I mean, you don't have to be perfect with these. And even if I left them just the way they are, I'm going to put a little shade color of a greeny blue color on there in a minute. So I mean, I might just even leave these with this one coat on here. Like I said, they're not going to show too predominantly in the painting because they're going to be covered up with a lot of flowers. Okay. Yeah, the colors are really pretty. I love this sea glass color. So I'm going to get my fine liner and I'm just going to line out the stem for these. Look at, you see that, people? Here's what I do. I'm going to get a baby wipe and I'm going to fix that. So, if you put your hand in your paint and you smudge it like that, the easiest thing to do is just grab a wet wipe, baby wipe, have those on hand, and just clean that up around there. All is not lost. I do this so often that it doesn't alarm me anymore. So we'll just clean that up and fix my leaf. Everything is fixable. It's paint. It's not a big deal. And now I will try and keep my hand out of it. But it was bound to happen. I told you it was going to happen. Okay, moving on. So now we're going to work on the stems. And I didn't trace the little off stems that come off of these, so I'm just going to hand paint those in. You can transfer yours in. All these little sprigs off of here, I didn't draw those in, so I'm just going to freehand those in. You can transfer yours when you get your line drawing if you don't feel comfortable hand painting them in. That's okay. Around and hopefully you can still get it in the camera there. So for those little offshoots, I just kind of pulled them out here and there, and again, they can just be random. I'm just gonna put this back a little tiny bit. All right, get situated here again. I have a blanket on my legs. I'm freezing in here today. All right, so we're just gonna do these little offshoots here. And I'm just using my fine liner still. And you don't have to go too crazy with these because you can add some of these in after you get your flowers on, because you're going to want to pull some of these out over your flowers so you can see them and give your painting a little bit of depth. So we'll just put a few in here. And I didn't design this with it being really meticulous in mind. Like I painted it more or less as a freehand painting. And I'm going to show you what I mean when I start doing the daisies. You can put those things anywhere you want to on this painting. You can add them anywhere. If you want to put a couple little daisies down here on the bottom on the tabletop, you can do that too. They're really simple to paint, and you can go crazy with them and paint them wherever you like. You can add more than I have in my design. That's totally fine. All right, so I'm just going to leave that to dry, and I'm going to move back down here to, and I'm going to pull that back for you a little bit so we can get that in the camera shot. And I'm just going to come back down here and put another coat of paint on this watering can, because now that it's dry, I can see through it a bit, and I can still see my tan color through it. So I want to cover that up. Okay. Let me bring this back just a little bit more. There we go. And I'm just going to very quickly get another coat on there. Get all this base coating done, and then we can make the magic happen, because it really doesn't start to come to life until you shade a little bit and put your details on. I always find that the blocking in, I call it the boring part, because it's basically just paint by numbers up to this point, and then things actually come to life when you start putting your details on and your shading on there. Then it starts to look like something, in my opinion anyway. But you can see the difference in the coverage on the second coat. Hi, Linda. I noticed there's a few more people coming on. If you want the line drawing for this project, you can text me at 343-308-7620, and I will get you the link for the line drawing. You can just text info or just say hi. I'll know what it is, what it's for. It goes to a separate service, so it's all for my painting business. So you can just say hello, and I'll know what you're texting me for. Baby wipes are a godsend. They really are. All right. So I think that's pretty good. I'm just going to quickly dry this so that I can start putting the stripes and shading onto my can. So I'm just going to turn my volume off again for a second. Okay, so to get the stripes on here, I just I transferred my lines on here just as a guide, and I'll show you how I painted those stripes. I'm just gonna get this lined up here somewhat, and I didn't put these on very dark because I just wanted to know sort of where those stripes go. So I'm just going to put this on lightly. And if you don't want stripes on your can, you could stencil a pattern on your watering can if you wanted to, or you could leave it plain. You don't have to do it exactly the way I'm doing it. If you had a little floral stencil or something, you could stencil a design on it, by all means. Many different ways to do it. So I'll just get these ones up here. I'll just make sure I can see them. Perfect. And then I took my trusty painter's tape and I cut 2 pieces. And this is how I got the lines nice and straight, because if I tried to paint these, it probably wouldn't be near as straight as if I used this tape. So here's a little trick for you. I'm just going to put those on as a guide. And then I used these are Princeton Lunar brushes. I use these for dry brushing, and you can use a stencil brush too, whichever is fine. And I'm going to use some buttermilk. So this is just an off-white color. And I'm dipping straight into the paint on my brush, and I'm going to work it in my hand to make it nice and dry. I don't want it to be wet at all. And then I just dry brushed that stripe right on there. And I didn't want them too dark. I just wanted a hint of color there. So when I pull my tape off, my stripe is there. And then we're just going to keep going across, doing the exact same thing on all of these. You can see some of my lines got really wonky when I was transferring them, so yeah, I dare say that if I painted those, they wouldn't be nice and straight like these ones. And I'm just doing this quickly. You don't have to, you can do yours much prettier. I'm just, for time's sake, I'm just showing you how I did it. So I'm doing this kind of quick. If you wanted to let the stripe dry a little bit and then put another coat on there, you could do that too, but I'm just going to put one coat on just so you can get the idea of where I was going with this. have one more here on the body of the watering can, and then we're going to move up to the spout. I think that one got a little wide. The sticky on my tape is wearing out. Okay. Oh, I think this one started here. And this one is just right along the edge. Okay, and then we have this little tiny bit up here on the end of the spout. And then our stripes will be complete. Okay, I think I got that. There we go. Okay. So hopefully that made sense to you. So if you still have a bit of that graphite on there, I'll just grab my eraser. So I just use white gum eraser, and you can erase those lines if you still see them on there and you want those gone. You can just erase those off and they'll fade off there. Make sure your paint's dry before you do this though. And even if there's lines around the edge of your painting that you don't want on there, you can erase those off as well. All right. All good so far? Throw me a heart or a like or something so I know you're still with me. Let's move my tape out of the way. So now I'm going to shade the watering can with some plantation pine. So that's just a darker green. It's like a forest green color. And I'm going to use my little 1/4 inch angled brush and some clean water. You want to shade with clean water. You don't want to use dirty water because you'll get streaks of color on there that you don't want. I'm just loading my brush and I'm just dipping that corner of my shader in there and I'm working the paint in, wetting my brush and tamping it off on my paper towel. So I want to do a little bit on the handle, just along the edge. And I'm going to put some on that little curly part down here. And then I'm going to go up along this edge a little bit here. Can you guys see that okay? Do you need me to zoom in a little bit? There, I'll just come in and maybe you can see that a little better. You just want to add some shading kind of around the edges of your watering can. Sorry if I stop talking, I'm concentrating there really hard. And I'm going to flip this because I want to get right along this bottom edge, and it's just easier for me to reach if I flip it upside down. And then there's a little lip on that bottom edge, so I want to just come just above that. And you can transfer that line back on if you want to. I know where it is, so I'm just going to go for it. Hi, Krista. Go, and then I'm going to go on this side of the spout here. Hold that up so you can see. Have a little lip along the top here, and I'm just going to go underneath that. And then I'm going to go along this top edge. There's another little lip here as well. So I'm going to go above it and below it. And you can see in here that where I got a little overzealous with my dry brushing. So I'm just going to take some of that seagrass color and I'm just going to paint right over those little spots that shouldn't be there. So on this side of this little, I don't know what you call this support, I guess. And then we have a little lip here that you want to go on either side of. So really basically what you're doing is you're defining all of these details on the watering can. So, and I'm just going to put a little bit along that bottom edge there. And I'm going this bottom edge of this part of the spout as well. And along the bottom of this support. The phone number is 343-308-7620. Okay. So also I'm going to dry brush just a little tiny bit in this area up here with that buttermilk color. And a little bit on the handle with that buttermilk color as well. All right, so now we can move on to finishing up this greenery, and then we can start adding some daisies. So the highlight color, or the shade color that I put on these is Mermaid Tail. It's like a really kind of deep teal color. And I'm going to use my round brush that I used initially there. And I'm just going to pull a little bit of that color along the side of those. Again, like I said, you're not going to see a whole lot of these leaves with your daisies on top. Okay, Kathy, that's fine. It's a pretty simple one to paint too. It doesn't take too long. I'm talking a lot as I do it, so it slows me down a little bit, but honestly, if you were concentrating on this and not talking as much as I am, you would probably get it done a lot faster. But I'm trying to explain what I'm doing as I go. Okay, so there's that. It's a pretty color in there. So I'm just going to back this up because I'm going to dry this again, and then we're going to start adding some daisies up in here. So we're pretty much done the watering can. We just have to outline it with our marker, but we're going to do that last. So we're going to get to work on our daisies. So I'm just going to turn the volume off to dry this. Yes, of course, you can message me for it. Yep, you can, Karina. You know where to find me. Any of the ladies in the playground that want the line drawing, I can get it to you after, so don't worry about that. If you're already in the playground and you guys want to paint this one, don't worry, I'll get you everything you need. All right, so I'm just going to put my line drawing back down here, my messy line drawing. And I'm going to transfer on these big white daisies first. So these white ones in here, these ones especially, and then I'm going to do those ones first, and then we'll start incorporating some of these other ones in here. So you just kind of need the outline. And I'm going to put these leaves in too, because I want to paint those, base coat those in first as well. Okay. So I'm going to use my angled brush and my Hauser medium green, and I'm going to just base those big leaves in. Okay. So I'm just going to move this in so you can see what I'm doing with these daisies. I want you to be able to see it. And it's basically the same kind of stroke as we used for these leaves. I'm just going to grab some new white here. And each of the petals are just the same as we did for those leaves, so we're just going to pull them right to the center. And don't worry about going over your center a little bit. We're going to paint that out last. So we're going to get these petals on here first. Really simple flower to paint. And I'm using my number 5 round, again, the same brush as I used for those leaves. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to meticulously put these flowers on here with my line drawing just for time's sake. You can, by all means, when you get your line drawing and you want to do your flowers that way, that's totally fine. and you can, you know, wait for these to dry and then you can add more and keep going that way. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of follow my original here, and I'm going to freehand them in. So they're all painted the exact same way. So I'm just going to throw some of these white ones in here, and it's not going to look exactly the same as the line drawing, but I think you get the idea. So, and you could even do it this way too if you want to. Again, you know, you can do them all different sizes. I'm just going to back up a bit now that you can see how I did that. You can do all different sizes. You can do small ones, big ones. And you're just going to start filling this whole thing in with daisies. And where else will I put one? How about right here? Again, I'm trying to keep my hands out of wet paint. And we'll put another one up here. Get all these white guys on here first. And we'll put one more over here. And if you want to do it this way too, it's pretty simple. And you'll also have the photo. When I send you the line drawing, I'll send the reference photo with it as well. So you'll be able to have that to look at too if you want to just do your daisies the way I'm doing them and just place them wherever. So I'm just going over these again a little bit because when they dry, they fade out a bit. So I'm just going to put another coat on here. And 2 should be good. 2 coats should be good. Those ones aren't quite dry yet, so I'm going to move on to the another color. So I think I'll move on to some pink ones. And I used baby pink for this, baby pink color. And we're going to paint them exactly the same way. And we'll start adding some pink ones in here. And you can go right over top of some of those other petals there. You kind of want to overlap them a little bit on your other flowers. And we'll throw one right here in the middle. You can turn your canvas when you're doing this. See, if I was coming at this one from that way, it would have been a nicer. So, you know, I'm just trying to keep it still so you can see what I'm doing. But you can turn your canvas whichever way you need to reach it, is what I'm trying to say. And we'll put, where will we put one down here? Okay, I'm going to put a small one here. It's going to be a little bit different than the original, but I'm going to do it this way. And I'll put one up here maybe up. Just trying to make sure they're kind of equal. Look, equal. Is this all clear as mud to y'all? They go pretty quickly once you start painting them. And I mean, I don't think I'm going to put a second coat of pink on there because honestly the pink covered really well, so I'm good with that. And then I'm going to move on to my yellow ones, and I used Marigold for this. And I have an old Delta Ceramic coat that I'm using for this, but it's essentially the color match is Marigold, so I'm just trying to use this paint up, but it's the same color. And then we'll just start adding some yellow ones in. And then I'm going to dry it and see if I need to add any more color in here once it's dry. Did I answer your question, Krista? I think it's a number 5 round. I think I said it earlier, maybe you didn't hear me. Yeah, number 5 round is what I'm using. And they do go pretty quick. Like you just kind of push down and pull up. Push down, pull up as you get to the center. Making like little teardrops. And we'll put one in here. Fill in this spot. And like I said, as you go, you can do as many of these as you want, anywhere you want. You don't have to follow my line drawing really to the letter. And then I'm going to put a half one down here. So I'm going to start there. And like I said, you notice I'm going right over top my other flowers. And then we'll bring one in here. That's a good idea, actually, what you just did there. your own message will pop up for you. Smart. I never thought of that. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I might actually put one right in the center there. We'll put a little yellow one in here. And I think I'm going to stop. Mostly because I think you have the idea of how I laid these petals down. And you could be here all night adding flowers if you wanted to. But again, I don't want to keep you on forever. And I'm just going to put another coat of green here on these leaves, just to darken them up a little bit before I dry it. Okay. So I'm just going to turn my volume off again and dry this so I can move on to the center. So that should be dry enough. They're still, these are pretty thick, so they're still a little bit wet on the ends, but that's okay. We'll let them dry the rest of the way on their own. So I'm just going to dip into some of that plantation pine, and I'm going to shade the bottom edge of those leaves. And I'm going to put a little bit in here around this flower. And also on this bottom edge here, or side edge, I guess. And then I'm going to use a little bit of yellow green. I'm going to get you the line drawing, Sue, don't worry. So I'm just going to highlight the other side of these leaves with some yellow green. Okay, and then I'm going to use my fine liner and some of that plantation pine, and I'm going to put that vein line onto the leaves. So, and now for the centers. So some of the centers I did in, what did I do, man? You know, just trying to look here and see how I did those. Some of them I did with burnt umber, some I did with marigold. So I'm gonna do the burnt umber ones first. And I think I did some of these yellow ones. I kind of did them random. Some of them had burnt umber centers, some have yellow centers, but we're just gonna fill these in. So you can do them in different colors. I'll do that one in yellow. So we're gonna do a half one here. And this is another little half flower. I'm going to do some of my pink ones with yellow centers. Again, it doesn't really matter. You can switch these up whichever way you like. Oh, I missed a yellow one here. So we'll do that one in brown. And then we'll dry this again, because for the next step we need to have these dry. So I'll just turn my volume up. So now I took my 1/4 inch shader, my angled shader, and I used some burnt umber, and I shaded just on the outside edge of that center. So you can do that for all of the brown ones. Go all the way around the outside edge with the burnt umber, around the burnt umber centers. You just want to shade a little bit onto the petals. And I think I did brown around this one on the white one. And for the pink ones, I used a little bit of Royal Fuchsia. It's like a really bright pink. So these flowers look pretty boring right now, but they're starting to come together. And for the yellow centers, I shaded them with, a second, I gotta grab it. I got it over on my other paint table. So I use burnt orange in the yellow centers, and it's literally the color it says. It's like a clay color. And I'm just gonna shade the one side of those yellow centers. And then the burnt umber ones, I used a little bit of yellow and shaded that in the center, just a little bit on the side there. Like so. Okay, so now you can grab your fine liner and you can use some of that peacock teal, or the mermaid tail, excuse me, I used mermaid tail. That teal color. And you can start to pull some of these longer sprigs out here. And these can just be random. You can bring them up over your flower petals. The dog's really not liking me talking to you. He's all out of sorts here. Doesn't know who I'm talking to. So I'm just kind of pulling those out. It gives it more of a 3D look, so less than, gives it a little bit of dimension. It doesn't look so flat when we start to pull these out. And then there's a couple little long curly ones here that go down onto the watering can, same color. Like that, and then you can just continue to pull out some more of these all around. And these are, again, I'm just doing these random. Here, whoops. I'll just pull a couple more out here and then we can finish those up and I can show you what we did with those. But again, you can put these wherever you like. They don't have to be, you know, anywhere in particular. You can just eyeball it and pull these out wherever you like. I think I'll put one more right in here. Up this way. Okay. So for the next step, I'm going to need to dry this really well because I'm going to be using my marker and I'm going to show you how I finished off those daisies. So I'm just going to dry this one last time. Yeah, it would be great for Mother's Day for sure, Krista. One second. So I'm going to bring this in closer so you can see what I'm doing and how I finish these. So again, they look kind of boring right now, but then I'm using a Sharpie pen. It's a fine liner Sharpie pen, permanent marker. Make sure it's permanent. You don't want one that's water-based. And you want to make sure this is completely dry before you use your Sharpie because it'll plug up the end and it will be rendered useless to you. Trust me, I've done that too. So I'm just going to kind of go a squiggly line around the centers, like so. And then how I do my petals is I kind of do like a funny little squiggle like that around each one, just to define them a little bit. And once I get this done, you'll see what I mean, how different they look after they've been outlined. You can see it already. They start to sort of come to life when they have the petals outlined. So there, it looks so much different now as opposed to these ones, now that you can see that it's a little more defined. So you just continue to go around all of these, and you don't have to be right on the petal. Like I kind of go outside of my petal a little bit when I outline. Like that. And then we'll do this one here. Now I'm trying to do these quickly because we've been on here for a good 2 hours and I don't want to keep you too much longer. So I'm just trying to do these quickly. You can take your time with yours. You don't have to do it as fast as I'm trying to do mine. You can see how it's starting to come together there. Now also with your marking pen, you want to outline your, I'm just going to back this up. You want to outline all the way around the parts of your watering can as well. So you want to define all those edges. And for this little spout, I kind of just put, I'm going to bring this up so you can see it a little bit better. I just kind of put little C's for the holes in the end of that. So tiny little C's. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that better. And you can put as many of those on there as you want. So I just went ahead and I outlined all the way around it. one last little bit here, and we'll move back up to those flowers and finish outlining those, and then we'll add our little dots and a little bit of bit here on the bottom edge too. All right, so we're almost complete here. So I'm just going to continue on with my daisies. Thank you, Kathy. Dog is being very noisy. I don't know if you guys can hear him. He was snoring earlier. I was wondering if you thought that was me making all that noise, but he was laying in on the rug here, snoring away. Yeah, the Sharpie really brings out the flowers, I find. When I outline the petals, it changes the whole look of the flower. And of this as well down here. It really does make a difference. Now you could tediously do this with your paintbrush and your paint. I just find it's much faster with the Sharpie. It does the same trick. If you had a fine line Posca pen, paint pen, it would work the same. But it's just so much quicker to use this or a paint pen to do this part. So we're just near done here around these last few flowers. Bear with me. I want to get them all done so you can see how it looks when I'm finished, instead of just doing half my flowers and sending you away to fend for yourself. I kind of want to make sure that you can see it completed before we leave. And maybe this one here. I think we have a couple more here. And then we're going to add a few little dots to the centers. I don't think I missed any. I think I got them all. So yeah, like it's now a totally different look, I think. And now I'm going to take my stylus and I'm going to dip, that's what I use to transfer my pattern on, but I'm just going to dip the end straight into that paint. And I'm just going to add a few little dots in the center of each flower. Not completely filling it, just putting a few little dots in there. And these are the little finishing details that really set it off, I think. Paint pens also, you can get them from Curry's. You can get them from Dick Blick's. If you're in the States, you can get them from Dick Blick's. If you're in Canada, you can get them from Curry's Art Store. And they have online ordering as well. I get mine, I have them sent straight to my mailbox, so very easy. And they're very fast. It doesn't take very long for me to get an order from them, from Currys. Okay, so then I'm going to do the same thing. Now we're going to do some of these dots here. It's kind of like baby's breath sort of thing off of all of these little sprigs that we put in there. So the number of sprigs you put in are, you're going to have to do, sorry, I just want to back up. There we go, okay. Is going to determine the number of little dots you have to put on your painting. But this kind of sets it off too, with all of these little baby's breath in here. That's what we're going to call them anyways. And just add those along each of those little sprigs. And up in here in the center as well. And you could be here, you know, forever adding your little dots. It's kind of a relaxing little thing. Try very hard not to put your hand or your arm in your dots. You'll smudge those like crazy. I've done that. You gotta let those little dots dry completely. And you can fill in some of these little center areas in here that look bare. Just add a few of your little dots there. And then you want to go along this curly one down here as well. Like so. And then the last step, I believe I'm at the last step. I hope I'm at the last step. Oh, I know something else you can do. You can take your burnt umber and right in the center of your flowers, you can kind of pull out some little lines from the centers onto your petals like that with some burnt umber. And I'm not going to do them all, but you can, I'm going to move in so you can see what I just did. But you can do that to your flowers as well. So you can kind of just pull those, I'm going to get some water here, make that more inky. And kind of just see, I'm getting my hand in my little dots there. You can kind of just pull those right out from the center with your fine liner and right up into your petals, like so. So you can do that for all of your flowers too. I'm not going to sit here and do all of that, but you can do that as well on yours. And I'm just going to back up. And right here along the bottom, we're going to simulate that it's sitting on a countertop or what have you. And I'm going to use some burnt umber. And I'm going to just use my angled brush, my 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to lay it on the side and pull out like so. Okay. Then sign your work. Always sign your work. So I think that's it, ladies.